Hey, it's Al from Read Art. Today I'm going to be painting for you the drunk fish. This is a painting I designed for a paint party at a winery. And what else did we want at a winery than a drunk fish? So what I'm going to do is first explain to you what I use. I use a 16 flat brush, a size 7 flat brush. I've got a size 6 round brush and a size 2 pointy round brush. Your choice of brush is what you use, whatever suits. Everyone has their own individual tastes, of course, so use whatever brush you want. I've also got my bowl of water and a spare bowl ready to go, paper towel if I need it. And I used to use a lot of paper towel, but now I use a wet rag to wipe my brush, and you'll probably see me, I'll always have the wet rag in my hand and all continually wiping my brush onto the rag. Now I'm painting on paper today, and I've already drawn my stencil on. I've traced my stencil straight off my computer screen this time. Sometimes I use carbon paper to trace my stencils. This time I just put it over the computer screen and it shines through the paper and I drew through it. If you want stencils, if you want this stencil in particular, go to www.readart.com.au, and we've not only got this stencil, we've got a whole heap of stencils in there for you to choose from. So I better go through my paints, which are way over here. On my palette, I've got I've got white, black. I've got a bluey purple colour. It's a darker blue, an orange, a yellow orange, a green, and a lighter blue. You can paint any colours you want. It's up to you. These are the ones I just randomly picked, and I thought, oh, that'll do for the colours, and I'll mix them up to find the colour that I want that'll work for me. So I'm going to make a start, and I'm going to start with first. I think I'll do the background first. It's always a good idea to start on the background because you're going to paint over the top of it. Now, getting my brush all wet. And now I'm going to start with I'm going to put a blue up the top. But what I'm going to do, I just splattered that. I've watered down the blue so you can see through it. It's translucent, which gives it a texture. And normally I would add white to that paint, to the blue, just to give it that texture, because I don't want a flat background. Flat backgrounds are boring. And so I'm going to keep that up. I'm going to keep mixing the blue. And I'm not going over my lines, my stencil lines, because blue's a darker colour, and to cover, and I know the froth and the glass is going to be a lighter colour, a whitey colour. It's very hard to cover a darker colour, so I'm avoiding this time going over the lines too much. I'm just going to get some consistency here so that it's the same on both sides. She's a bit thicker on this side, a bit like myself. Now I probably would have gone with a lighter sky blue by mixing white in with it, but I'm trying something different here. I'm trying to just go, I thought, no, this looks all right with the watercolory look. But when I get down to the bottom, I'm going to start fading it off to a green. Now, even though it's not going to look like sky and grass, it gives the illusion that the background is balanced between the sky and the grass, and then somewhere along here is going to be the horizon line. It just balances out the picture. Now, if you're painting on canvas, this texture would be a bit harder, and I'd probably go with mixing the white with the blue. And always, canvas, when you're using canvas, put a base coat down first. So I might have even put down a base coat of white, then added the blue into it. And using water to get that paint to seep into the pores of the canvas. It's a bit easier when you're using paper as I'm using here, because I'm going for consistency here to get the same thickness. Yeah, using the paper, it's a flatter surface, but I find working with paper a little bit harder than working with canvas because it absorbs the paint too quickly. Oh, I'm just going to go with that. It's a little bit different to my original of this picture, but you never want it to be the same. So I'm going to go for green, but this time I'm going to put some white in that green because it's a little bit dark. I'm just brushing it on first, and then I'm going to put the texture into it. I don't have to be perfect on these lines, on the stencil lines, because we're going to do a black outline. If you look at the original, there's a black outlines that go around the glass that makes it pop. Right, so I've got that down. I'm just going to, before it dries out on me, just clean my brush off, get some water, and get the blending happening where it joins from the blue to the green. Get some texture into that green. I'll get some more texture in that green, but I'll add a bit more green to it in a minute. I just want to get that blending done. I'll just get a pinch of green. Whenever you're using darker colours, only use a pinch of darker colour to add to the lighter colour. Never add a lot of darker colour. Keep that in your mind. Work from light to dark by adding pinches of dark. So if you're going to mix some paint and you've made it too dark, don't just keep adding white, because you'll waste a lot of paint trying to get it back to where you wanted it. So you just get get another lump of white and add that colour to it, and you'll find you waste a lot less paint. I'm actually going to put a bit of white in this to break it up. And I'm not overly brushing it in, I'm just trying to get some white texture into the background, because it's looking too flat at the moment. And it's like a crosshatch technique. Now I'm going to go a bit darker down the bottom. If the picture looks heavier at the bottom, it's balanced. The heavier part of something is always at the bottom. Wet it. Acrylics are always a lot better to work on a wet surface. Just clean that brush off. get some blending happening so it flows evenly around the picture. It's good. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm just going to use a bit of paper just to get rid of some of this, so I've got a space to work with. Okay, so now I might work on, let's do the glass. Decontaminate my brush, get all that paint out of it. I know I'm going to be using a smaller brush for these areas, but I don't want to be grabbing this brush and finding out I've got green paint in it. There's little bits of blue still in that. Yeah, it's good. So I've gone to a medium-sized flat brush. Now, I need to try and get an effect here of reflections in glass. So it's a lot of horizontal strokes, and it's going to be, I'm going to pre-mix it now. A lot of white and a pinch of blue. And this is what I mean. I've got to add a lot more white to get that down to where I want. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get a blob of white and add it to the white until I'm happy. Now I'm thinking ahead here. I know acrylics dry a little bit darker. Acrylics dry a little bit darker when the water dries out of them. So I don't want the reflections in the glass to be too dark. So I've got a lighter paint. So in that white that I put there, I'm just going to put some blues into it. Wipe the blue off, get some white paint, and just do some slight blending with the tip of my brush, not too heavy. So what I want to see is that background, that blue in the background reflecting through the glass. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, Google a picture of a glass of beer and have a look at the reflections in the glass. I could probably even put some amber colour in the glass, but I haven't mixed that yet, so I can add it in after I've done this bit. Here's a spot where I've gone over too much with the background. See if I can break it up. I'm going to have to put a couple of layers of white on top of that just to cover it. So I don't know how well you can see in that camera. It's not actually white, the glass. It's a really pale blue with some white streaks through it. And they're vertical strokes coming down the glass. And around the handle, I'm painting the light blue. And I'm going to follow that shape with the white streaks. The background paint's coming through again. Put another coat over the top of it. Well, I'm going to give it just a pinch more blue in some spots just to make it pop a bit more, because my white and light blue are very similar. Sorry, I've developed a bit of a cough. I'm just getting that reflection to flow around the handle. Just using the tip of my brush, just to, not to rub the paints together, just to move it slightly, just a slight blend. Now also remembering there's going to be a black outline that goes around this. I'll do the other side. Bit of that darker blue. Made a rookie error here. I didn't mix enough of the light blue. Should always, if you're going to mix paint, always try and mix enough for the area that you're going to be using it on. It's not easy sometimes getting the same paints, colours mixed. There you go, just tried a new technique just to see how it goes. Just putting some streaks in using the back of my brush. Not too many, just a couple. Now we'll do the bottom. I'm not worried about going over the lines because this paint, the amber in the middle, is going to be darker than this light blue. It'll paint straight over the top of it. Now remember, if you want to get one of our stencils, just go to www.redart.com.au and have a look at the other stencils that we have there as well. Let's get some white streaks. Very lightly, so I'm not rubbing away the white too much. It's just a layer on top, a streaky layer. Oh yeah, that's the glass. I could have put some darker streaks in, but I don't think it needs it. I'm quite happy with what I've got. So now, amber. I'm trying to mix up this orange just to get that lighter adding bits more of orange as I need to get it to the colour I want. There we go. And basically, I'm just painting in the inside of the glass, not over the trophy area because that's going to be lighter. I can paint over the fish because those stencil lines, and you'll learn from experience that what colours you can paint over the stencil lines. Like I wouldn't do it with a black. And I can still see the stencil lines straight through this paint. Once again, I could leave it just that plain amber colour, but I'm going to give it just some darker areas, just so it's not flat. So it looks like there is reflection in the amber. Just going to wipe off that area I just painted over. Using vertical strokes because the glass is going around, so you'd have the vertical strokes in it. Righto. So let's do the froth. So that leftover paint that I've got there, I'm going to add, we've got a bit of green in that. A bit of contamination there. Let's get some more white paint. This happens because I'm rushing. That's what I was doing. Right, so I've got a frothy yellow. The froth is going to be mostly white, and I'm going to use that yellow, whitey yellow, just to give it the texture that I need. I'm putting this on quite thick. I want it to go over the outside edge of the background, so it's popping out in front of the background. So I've got to put the paint on thick to do it. And plus, the thick paint gives that texture, a bubbly texture anyways. You don't have to follow the lines religiously. Never try to make something look exactly like what you're seeing. It's not artwork unless if you've got to have your originality in it. I love when I'm painting in groups, seeing everyone's painting the same picture but with their own versions, different colours, different styles, different techniques. It's always great to see alternate points of views in artworks. Right, so I've got the white down, it's quite thick. Now I'm just going to put that yellowy froth. Some of this will be blended, disappear on the white. Once again, black outlines are what's going to make this stand out. Now I'm going to put some, I've got some light yellow in that. Now I'm just going to make some darker yellows just for a few spots, just to give it that bit more oomph. Too dark. Not pushing hard with my brush. Now I'll just kind of finish that off. Just tidying up with some white spots to blend some areas and make it pop a bit more on some white edges. Oh yeah, there's my froth. Now we've got the fish. Clean that brush out. Well, the colour of the fish, it really is up to you what colour fish you want to do. Goldfish I don't think is going to work because you've got the yellow background. Gold and yellow are very similar. The reason I went with a blue fish is because it matches the background. It sort of works, they work together. But if you wanted to, you could do a purple fish, you could do a red fish, or do a, whatever you want. This time I'm going to use a lighter blue. And I'll start at the top of the fish. And I'm just going to paint him all blue. Except for his eyes, of course. And I'm going to add some white highlights in some spots just to make him pop a little bit more, because he's going to have a black outline. Smoothing out this paint. Now before I go further, I'll just do some white tipping on some spots. Excuse me. I'll do a little bit of blending. I might make his eyelids a little bit darker in this one. Alright. Now I'm not pushing hard on my brush again. Try not to just mostly use the tip of your brush. You start with the tip, and sorry, I'll say that again. You start with your tip, and as you go, if you want it to get thicker, you then start putting pressure down on your brush to make your strokes wider. It's good practice just to practice doing your lines. Just practice doing your lines, get them the same thickness. Alright, just do that bit of white highlighting again. So I'm just trying to get some white in the point, the leading nose of the fish, snout. Now, bad practice. If you go like this, you go little strokes like this, you'll never get a straight line, a neat straight line. You've got to be decisive, go quick, use the tip of your brush, don't push down too hard, just a quick whiz and be happy with where you end up. You can always fix something, and if you can't fix it, no one ever notices anyways. So quick strokes. Get a piece of paper beforehand. If you're not confident, just practice doing straight strokes, up and down, then left and right, then circles. Notice the smaller things, the smaller the thing is you're painting, the smaller brush you go. It sounds logical, sounds common sense, but a lot of people don't think about it when they're doing it. They're too busy focusing on the painting itself instead of the tools they're using. Always got to use the right tool. Think about what tool, paintbrush you're going to be using next. I'm going to give this one, I don't have any red, so I'm just going to give him an orange tongue. And we're going to go a darker blue eyelid. I wonder how he'd look with a greeny tinge in the fins as well. We might give that a go. I'm just going to get a pinch of green, put some white into it. Sort of like a Siamese fighting fish. It's a bit of green in those fins. Right, tail fin. And once again, remembering it's going to have black outlining, so your lines don't have to be totally perfect. I put down my blue base coat. Get that bit pinch of that green into it. I just put my finger in the paint. Now white. Take the paint off my brush. Just leave it wet so I can do a little bit of blending. Right, last fin. Oops. Try not to get too much paint on those eyes, because those eyes are going to be white and I don't want to have to do too much layering over the top to cover up the blue. I get that green in. Some white. Get all the paint out of my brush because I'm going to use white. Just get those eyes in. A little bit thicker with the paint this time because I'm trying to cover the blue. Excuse me. Right. So now I'm going to my number 2. I could probably even have gone a little bit thicker. Could even used the number 6, is it? Yep, the number 6 for my black outlining. Now when to outline, get some black paint aside, stick some water in it. Now make it too runny, you'll start seeing through the black lines. You don't want that. So you've got to find that happy medium where you can paint a black line and it'll flow real easy, but it'll remain black. Now when I paint my black lines, I want long straight strokes, not slow. So as soon as you go slow, you'll start shaking and only using the tip of your brush, controlling the pressure when you're pushing down. So I'm going to start up the top here. I'm going to start in an area where the lines aren't straight, so I get confidence as I go. I can start by making curves, which it doesn't matter if they're incorrect. When I get to the straight edges, I'll have more control over my brush by that stage. So, just flowing around, following the edges. You got to find, now this is going to be the balance of, you need to find that happy medium where you've done enough black lines, because as soon as if you do too many, it's just going to drown out the entire picture and you'll lose the image. Now I've still got the problem of having wet paint, so I'm trying to avoid getting that black into that white too much. And once again, it's a confidence thing. You'll get going and you'll go real slow to start with. And the more you do it, the quicker you'll get, the more confident you get. The lines don't have to be in the perfect spot. If you get it in the wrong spot and it doesn't cover between the two colours, it doesn't matter. So now I'm starting to get more confident and a lot quicker with my brush strokes. This is where I don't want to make the decision to do too many more lines than necessary. Just enough to give it that 3D effect. Or 3D, bubbly effect. That'll do for up there. Now I'll work down the left side. This is where I've got to get comfortable, get in a comfortable position where I know my hand's going to go straight down all the way. And you can see there, some spots I've pressed the brush down a bit too hard. And I've got that thicker line. Once again, don't rub it off, just work with it. Sometimes you get to a spot where it's awkward. Do a rehearsal run before you go if you need to. Oh, I've got some black paint over here. Must have splattered it a little bit. Gone. You see how that paint's flowing long, I get a long line because I've got that water in it. Oh, I missed the edge there. Doesn't matter. So we're just about done. I'll finish the outlines and I'll put a couple more lines in just to make it pop. Excuse me. So that's all the outlines around the glass. Just do a couple of shade lines. Right, now we're on to the fish. So I'm looking for thinner lines on the fish. So lighter pressure on my brush. Whenever you do eyes, you always have a little white in the eyes, the eyeball. That's good. I feel like the fact that I'm telling myself it's good. Ah, and I'm just freestyling here. I'm just putting the strokes where I feel they're best suited. I'll say it again. If you want to paint this fish, www.readart.com.au. This stencil, plus plenty of other stencils are there if you want to download them. You get the image as well. Right, he's drunk, so let's put some swirls around the top. Some little crisscrosses. There's some bubbles. Put some white in the bubbles. I reckon we're done. There we go. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you get to paint with us. Let us know how you went. Send us a picture. See you later. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please check out our designs at www.readart.com, and I really appreciate your comments and if you subscribe.